Okay, in the betting game, a lot of people say that it's the thrill of the chase and finding the winners that that is what attracts them to it. I've been chasing my next guest for over 2 years, I think, Patrick Veitch. Thank you very much for finally agreeing to get in the hot seat after a lot of trying. Now, you published Enemy Number One in 2009, where you told your story up to that point. We'll go back to that a bit later. But let's get down to the crux of things. You're a professional gambler and have been for most of your working life. What makes you so special?
Well, I don't know about special, but yeah, you did kind of say you wanted me to answer this question, to provide some help, and people have occasionally said that I've kind of ducked this question before. So I've made some notes, Simon, because I thought, like, finally I should try and make a good effort to answer this question. There's the age-old problem that you try to, that you know, if I explain that, oh yes, you want to look in 7 furlong handicaps and make this calculation and then do this, it might be something that works, but a week later it wouldn't. A week later it'd be really useful for the people who can get on at 5 o'clock the night before and they grab the price on anything that showed up that way. But I've tried to come up with some ideas that you know are helpful without ruining anything. Firstly, you've got to play when the market's wrong, when people get things wrong. That sounds obvious, but my 2 favourite things written down are TFW and RPW. TFW's TFW's time form wrong, Racing Post wrong, RPW. That's not to say they're getting it wrong any more than anybody else. They're very professional organisations, but they all make mistakes. But they're the ones that everybody's reading. So your value isn't when you spot something and, oh yeah, time form agrees with me. Your value is when you think they've got it wrong. And even if you're only 30% they've got it wrong, if it's presented and believed by the market that it's definitely right, then that's going to give you that significant edge in how the horse should be priced. So that's the first thing to look for. It's not just a case of mastering the basics of what chance a horse has got. You're looking for a situation where people have made it, where there's a mistake in the market. Second one, this is probably the most interesting of all. This is how you apply logic. How to explain this? That let's take a simple example. You think a horse is going to be suited by a longer distance, and but how sure are you that is the case, and will it play? Will it play in terms of value? Will the circumstances today suit sufficiently to make it more of a stamina test today? I'm going to take it outside racing and talk about how you apply logic and how that can then be brought back into perhaps a racing context. The way I've described this is that there's a puzzle that gets put online, and it appears all over the place. And it's about a game show where a contestant gets through the final and then he's presented with 3 doors by the host. And behind the 3 doors, one door contains a car and the other 2 each contain a goat. And then the contestant picks a door, and if he gets the right door, he wins the car. He picks his door, and then the host shows him one of the other doors, opens the door, and behind that door is a goat. And the proposition is, should you now switch to the 3rd door? You know that one of the other doors, let's say you pick door number 1, you're shown that door number 2 has got a goat behind it, should you switch to door number 3? And you get vociferous arguments on the internet as to whether you should or shouldn't switch. The customary way that it is thought of is to say, well, people think, well, the advanced answer is that you should swap because you've been inside information about the other 2. The other 2 doors started out at 2/3 chance of containing the car, and if you know one of them's the goat, then you've got a 2/3 chance of switching. But understanding the problem, because this problem is rarely carefully well described, and rarely well answered, because it all depends on the host and what the host knows. That whether you improve your chances by switching all depends. If you know that every single week the host will show you one of the other 2 doors to be a goat, then you should definitely swap. If it was guaranteed that would happen, there's nothing relevant about the fact that he did or didn't choose to show you, then it's as I said at the start, it's a 2/3 chance. Doors 2 and 3 started out 2/3 to contain the car. If you're always shown one of them is a goat, then you know the other one is a 2/3 chance. But on the other hand, if the host opened a door at random and it might have shown the car, then it's 50-50. You've had no information. If he might have shown you your car, he's just shown you one door. The 2 other doors are equally likely to contain the car. Equally, it could be a situation where the host is trying to stuff you. If the host is working for the company and he's only going to show you another door if you pick the car, then by switching you've gone from 100% to 0%. So the way people think about this problem, and this is where I talk about applying logic, they think about the decision of the contestant, but actually it's how you view the problem. And that's obviously very much central then to betting situations, that what you have to do in this situation is realize it's about the host. Realize what does the host know? And that's the basic level. Does the host always show you an empty door? Does he show any door and it could have the car behind it? Does he only show you it if the situation is you've already picked the car? But then there's levels beyond that. What happens if he doesn't know, but maybe he sort of picks at random, but maybe this week he might have seen something. He's sort of, is he trying to help you? Is he trying to not? Has he fallen out with the company and this week he's trying to help you? Is the company running out of money? So this week, normally they always show you a door, but this week they might not do. They might not do if you've picked wrong, and they might not give you the option. So there's all sorts of possibilities there to be considered in the real world. It might be that the contestant has seen something. So how you price that up if you were betting, for serious money in that situation depends on many things, but it's how you view it. And then understanding in that problem that it's the host, not the contestant is. So you go back to will a horse be a good bet because you think it'll like the longer distance? Well, are you correct about that? How carefully have you watched it? But more importantly, will it play today? Will it be value or have too many people spotted it? Is it ideal because everybody else thinks the horse won't last the longer distance, but you think they're wrong? And is there a situation where simply because of the course, the going, or the amount of pace today, that it won't actually be an increase in stamina? Or could it be such a big increase of stamina because it's testing going, a stiff track, and very searching pace, that it's going to be too much of an increase of stamina? All those things about an increase in distance, that's a simple example. Those parameters get talked about on the racing TV channels all the time. But a lot of things in racing aren't simple, and some of the ideas you might have are not ones where you can have a precise list that you can take notes from watching the TV. And in that situation, often it's not just the basic problem itself, it's how you look at it. Next idea, punting. It's how you come back. It's all very well on the good days and the quite good days and that sort of thing, but it's how you handle it at 5 o'clock on the bad day. You've had a bad day's punting, some other things inside your punting life, maybe the people you're dealing with are needling you, and maybe you've got the treble up, there's some issues outside of in your real life which are irritating you as well. And in that situation, it's how you handle it. People have sometimes had the impression that I brush things off very easily. I don't. I take things that I find difficult quite hard, but I've learned to recover from them. And whilst I might have a sulk for an hour or two, the next day, if I've had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, to put a cricketing analogy, I'll be in off my full run-up. I've been playing for smaller stakes probably, if I've had a really bad run, but in terms of effort, I'll be off my full run-up. Now, a lot of people will tell you in that situation, if you've had a bad time, take a few days off. I would disagree with that. I would say you've got to learn to hack it. Now, yeah, bet smaller, but you need to be coming in, and in terms of your work rate, increase your work rate in that situation. One exception, that's for somebody who's talking about taking it seriously. But I must also send a message to anybody watching this. If you're somebody who finds gambling tricky, if you're somebody who finds gambling a problem, and you hit a sticky patch, then you should stop for a bit. Don't watch this video or any of these other videos and get into a situation where you put yourself into difficulty. But yeah, if you're professional and you're hopefully betting with the bookies' money, then in that situation, dig deep, work harder. If gambling becomes a problem, do the opposite, step away. Another little point. To inspire you along, it can work to have a target. If as a betting person you're a robot and you are unaffected by anything, then where you place your bets to some extent wouldn't matter. You just pick the best option on the day. But sometimes it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of a target. Early on in my career, I had a bit of a thing about Ladbrokes. It seemed to me they had everything sort of nicely stitched up. They were very brave about the bets they took from people who weren't going to win, but seemed to be very mean to me or anybody who was associated with me, or back in the original time when I was a tipster very early on, it seemed like they really struggled to lay the bets in those situations. But very keen to talk about the big bets they laid. To be clear, I'm talking about years ago, and nothing to do with the people that are there now. But in that situation, it also seemed they had their PRO going around, and he was friends with everybody, and there was well publicised, there was a BHA investigation because he was close to some jockey, and apparently no problem with that, and this, that, and the other. But it just seemed to me that, I didn't particularly approve of that, even if it was within the rules. It just seemed to me like they had everything sorted, and it was difficult to win off them. but I regrouped, and I should say to those, it also irritated me that they would say, that bet doesn't suit us, and send you away with a flea in your head, change the price, lay you nothing. So I took that on the chin, but I remembered, and I regrouped, and I came back, and there came the day when I was going really well, and I made sure that I included them. And yes, there were the days when my name was called out in their racing office when they knew it was me, but there were plenty of days when they didn't know it was me. And perhaps I didn't take 4-1 with them when they were 5-1 elsewhere, but occasionally I might have taken 9-2 if there was a big bet available. So yeah, as I say, sometimes having a little target, if you get a bit of the needle, if you handle it right, it can inspire you on to greater effort. Then the other thing I've talked about before, not everybody approved of, it's managing your brightness of your brain, brightness of your mind, how well you feel. That all this business of being like a poker player or an online gambler where you spend the whole time, in a bathrobe in front of your laptop, it's no good for your mind. You've got to get out there, you've got to get the light inside your eyes, you've got to get the sun on your skin, not too much, you've got to get exercise. And you've got to build that into your day, and you will work worse if you don't. And when I talked about the fact that I have a treadmill in the office and I'll do the easier parts of my day, I'll be walking rather than sitting. And to some people that seems like a really big effort, but it's not, because of course once you've done this and you've got out there and you've got all the exercise and you keep yourself active, you reduce the sedentary, you feel much happier. So it doesn't become any sort of hassle at all to do that. It definitely works. And I really commend that. As I say, you will not play to your best if you live a sedentary life. 2 more points. People. Be a little bit cautious with people. In racing, there's some wonderful characters, charismatic, interesting, and some wonderfully trustworthy characters as well. But there's also a few sharpies about. And I'll go to my grave surprised at how many people, when I checked, weren't sticking to the assurances they gave me. Sometimes first impressions can be good, but first impressions can also put you away. I have a phrase I call the Branson Factor. Richard Branson. I must stress, I'm only stating my opinion, but I wouldn't be a fan. He struck me as somebody who's got a lovely way about him, lovely soft voice, creates the right image when you look at him, but it seemed, from what I've read and heard, other people's opinion, that he can be a very ruthless businessman. You compare it to somebody like Philip Green. Now, would I want to do business with either of those people? No. Ideally neither. But if I had to pick one to do a business deal with, I'd probably go for Philip Green, because his faults are out there for everybody to see. Whereas I think Sir Richard is somebody who's a little bit... Now, where this is relevant is I talk about the Branson Factor, and that is you get some people who the image they create is so impressive that it can cause you to treat with undue amounts of confidence in them. And similarly, in reverse, you can have somebody who doesn't create a good impression, and you sort of tempted to never trust them. Go on the evidence. One of your interviewees, I won't name the person concerned, but he would have the highest Branson Factor of anybody you ever interviewed, and seems an incredibly nice person. And because of that, when in the interview, he made an extraordinary admission about what you might call his business ethics in his early part of his career with his original customers when he was first involved in the selecting of horses. To be clear, I'm not talking about you unless it entirely matches that. But as I say, that was an extraordinary admission, but nothing was said about it, because the guy, as I say, seems incredibly nice, a genuinely good-hearted person. His Branson Factor, therefore, was through the roof. And those type of people, as I say, that's not to say they're not good people and you can't have great relationships with them, but just be a bit careful, because some people can get away with more than other people. And as I say, the reverse applies, that sometimes, so first impressions are something, but go on the evidence. Trust, but don't trust 100% until you're absolutely sure. And sometimes 99 can be a good place to stop. Trust but check. And the final thing is work fast, that the speed with which you work really matters. And one thing people do, I can tell you, is they spend a lot of time typing into their phone and typing, maybe not emails these days, many, but emails, WhatsApps, etc., typing away. You can do voice messages. It's much, much faster. Do the voice messages. And if people don't want to voice message you back, that's even better, because it's faster to read than listen. This is practicality. People would think I'm going off on one here, but I assure you, there's so much racing out there. If you want to get it done, work fast. If, where possible, voice your messages. People want to make you read them back, that's great. Save the time, you get more work done and time for a real life in the background as well.